Okay, Carson, tell us about these works over here.
This one is called Bulldog, and this one is called Orange Craggy. And again, I am very much inspired by natural forms, but that really is my jumping off point. So I'm not sure if there's any kind of mineral that's orange and has like little arms, but in my world there is. And this one is called Bulldog, and one of the things that was really fun about making this one is that I was able to create a lot of different variations in the color itself. And so when I'm making these, they're made out of resin, which as you mix it is a liquid. And you can add all sorts of things to it, all kinds of iridescent pigments, mica, glitter, diamond dust, dyes. And so with this one, I was really aiming for this really great variety on the surface of the actual object. And it made me really excited, this one in particular, when I was done with it, because I felt like I learned a lot of new things about what the material has to offer.
Now let's keep walking through the gallery. Now these pieces here, talk about this.
This one is called Fool's Gold, and it was part of a whole series of gold rocks that I made. And there were some things I was thinking about at the time about the American West and how so many Americans were drawn westward, what that meant for the native people and what that meant for, you know, the kind of temperament that the American folks had at that point, where they were just desperate. I mean, people were so desperately poor that they were willing to go across where they had no friends and, you know, had to cover all kinds of really dangerous terrain on this hope that they might find gold. And I was thinking about the fact that oftentimes that kind of fantasy is actually better than anything else. So the idea that it could happen is better than, well, it's not better than it actually happening, but it is something that people feed on or they're driven by. And unfortunately, the reality, you know, for a lot of those 69ers was, or 49ers. 49ers.
Artist humor, love it.
49ers was that, you know, they didn't find anything. And they just found themselves on the other side of the continent, really, with nothing. And so it's a sad tale for a lot of people. So that's something I was thinking about in this whole series of gold rocks that I was making. I made a hanging gold rock sculpture as well as part of that body of work. This was really similar to Bulldog in that I was really looking for serious variation of color and luminosity. And that's one of the things that's really great about resin. You can add it in layers, and because you're adding it in layers, you have more opportunity for light to enter into the kind of layering process. And so there's some areas that are very, you know, do not conduct light, they're very opaque. And then there are other areas that were done in layers that I would pour one on top of another with different kinds of pigments. This one started off with a plastic bag and me pouring the resin into the bag just to see what would happen. And I got this very heavy blob, and that's where it started from. I often will work that way. I'll make the components as I go along, but I usually start with some kind of abstraction that then directs me in some way or another to do this and to do that, to continue on.
Very cool. So show me the last large piece and then we'll look at some of the smaller works.
So this one is was made at the same time as the Orange Craggy one, and I was again thinking about this fantasy life of minerals, and in a way, you know, when you make art, it's a way of possessing something and a way of capturing your own sort of desires, and this did that for me. I made a number that were similar but different colors, and I always liked this sort of green, blue, yellowish sort of color, and so it's one I kept in my collection.
So the final pieces, these are new, right?
These are
new
brand
works.
new.
They've never been shown, never been seen.
Never.
And they're here at Kean. So tell me about these.
I was commissioned to do a whole bunch of crystal sculptures lately, and I found that there were some things happening along the lines with the way I was seeing the light travel through the new sculptures, and I thought, well, I need to make some more just for myself, and that's where these are coming from. So they're almost like little sketches of color for me to kind of see what might happen. So I had a lot more freedom with these than I did with the commission pieces, because the commission pieces were very specific, but these I could have a lot of fun with. And so that's where these came from. I was really excited the way light was going through this one that's kind of multicolored, some violet and rose and red and orange.
Tell me about these layers we're looking at.
So these layers are the layers of casting. So I started with this sort of rectangular object or container, actually a container from the dollar store. And I started pouring the resin in these layers because I knew it would make these sort of stripes. But what I was really hoping for is that there would be this sort of delineation between all the colors, and I was really excited to see that. To get it out, I had to cut the container open, and then with my Dremel, I shaped it so it looked like this. These were cast separately and added at the last layer, and then this is covered with an epoxy. So the epoxy, once you drill into resin, it goes matte. It looks really dull, and so the epoxy gave it life again, and is really good conductor of light. And so the finishing, it worked out pretty well in my mind at least.
Thank you so much, Carson. We look forward to seeing you next Friday, February 10th.